The young guy comes out of the shower and finally can calmly relax, entering the building. First of all, he noticed what a luxurious place he was allocated to him. He would like to stay here forever. The brunette joyfully jumps onto a huge and soft bed and sighs in relief. And then, Shan heard someone's steps that were approaching him. The young man jumped up and began to look around. From the side of the corridor, a young, beautiful lady appeared. She looked slightly tired and embarrassed. It seems that the boy liked her, and from her appearance his heart trembled with joy and other raging emotions. He himself did not feel how a light but stupid smile appeared on his face. The blonde fell on his bed and decided to rest a little. The guy stared at her and was amazed at her beauty. Our hero wanted to kiss his bride. Looking at her beautiful lips, began to approach, but here, it happened that he certainly did not expect. Opening his eyes, he saw a snake. It seems that she liked his kiss, creeping, even smiled. After a few seconds, several more of the same came to him as Mishan Nahilo was so frightened and jumped back. From his screams, this beauty woke up, who had already had time to doze off and looked at him with a slight misunderstanding. A golden snake gave her a glass of water on her own orders. As it turned out, these unusual creatures are her pets, and it seems that the guy is not very pleased with them. He looked at her bewildered, and out of fear did not even understand what she was talking about. There were quite a lot of them, more than a dozen, and everyone crawled to him. The blonde was just laughing at him. Now she's not sure that he wants to stay with her for the night in the same room. Yes, and now he is not up to this. He is scared from one type of snakes that began to gov his body. He no longer restrained himself and shouted so loudly that it seemed to be a voice. That's how this night passed. The morning came soon. A bright sun rose above the house. His rays began to fall into the room, illuminating everything around. And in the meantime, Shan was sleeping on the floor. It seemed that the snakes were exhausted and he did not even think of getting on the bed. And now, finally they began to creep, and he was able to calmly get up. But still, they were next to him, from which he was trembling. First of all, he would like to freshen up now, having engaged in everyday routine. But the shower cabin was busy. Although the bride gave permission to go to the shower together, it seemed to him that somewhere there was a catch. Opening the door, he saw a couple of snakes who had already guarded him, and as if smiling, the girl decided to joke over him. Of course, he would not want to contact them again. Shan began to take his legs as far as possible, and so he rushes along the corridor as far as possible from this place. The guy went to one door and began to pull the handle. The brunette went out into the room and closed, sighing in relief. But here, someone came to him. It was his mother-in-law, and she accepted him in the most polite way, swinging her foot. The woman hit him well in the stomach, so much so that the guy fell to the ground. It seems that she crushed quite a lot on him. He began to make excuses that some kind of misunderstanding occurred between them. The blonde was furious and demanded not to call her like that. No one allowed him to enter her room. Although it was so, Sheng tries to explain to her that he was looking for a bathroom. She very much disdains that he took advantage of her personal things and demands to clean them. He sat on the floor and only blinked his eyes. I do not understand what she wants from him. Well, or the guy was given a simpler option, namely, to dart to the warehouse and bring her a new toilet, and another than he managed to use. He jumped up and shouted at his mother-in-law. He is eventually married to her daughter. If she continues, he will never return here to her. The blonde began to threaten him that he would not have a future if he does not obey her. The guy was slightly confused. His eyes ran in. Is she really not afraid that he knows that her daughter has a fetish on poisonous snakes? The woman covered her mouth with her hand and only laughed, as if she did not care. The brunette tried to convey to her that there would be not the most pleasant consequences after that. Whether someone would not dare to approach her again. It seems that she really does not care about what he says. She continues to laugh in response, but here, her fun breaks off. His mother-in-law grabs his neck and strangles slightly. If so to judge, it seems that Shen never saw the prey that he climbs into the predator's lair. Although you can't say it, a woman has incredible power, and he is painful enough from her touch. Somehow our hero escaped, and after going to the educational institution where unpleasant news had already been expected from the threshold, a few days earlier, he submitted an application for a scholarship, and he was already refused once again, which is very surprising, because people who do not correspond to all conditions but from very good families received approval. The mustachioed only looked at him with displeasure, and cannot understand why it does not reach him that if he has the same family conditions as the rest, then everything can be different. Shen simply fell to the ground among this whole pile of pieces of paper. Now it seems to him that he is doomed and he has no chance. Uncle approached him and patted him on the shoulder, promising to help with everything. The student jumped up and was ready to kiss him with joy and tightly squeezed his hand. He was not particularly glad of such tact and asked to set aside all the gratitude aside. However, of course, he asks for something in return. In order to get approval to the scholarship, our hero was ready for absolutely everything, even to go through the fire. While he was collecting pieces of paper, the old man asked him if the freshman Millie his girlfriend is. The guy only smiled in response. For him, this is not just a familiar. She was his only family in the shelter and was especially good for him. The mustachioed was delighted and asked her to bring here, and only then he would do him a favor. It seems that Shan did not appreciate such an idea and even got angry, looking at him intently. The old man was also at a loss. Was he really changed his mind to receive his scholarship? Of course not, but our hero does not want to sell his only family, and therefore tears all the pieces of paper and viciously throws out inadequate in the face. Suddenly, his wife felt something strange in the heart of the heart when she was just near the office. Strange sounds were heard from one of the doors. She immediately realized that something was happening there. From anger, our hero began to glow, as if all in fire, and the director became back to the table and no longer knew where to move on. Suddenly, he heard strange steps behind the door, which burst out in speed. Shan's wife came from the foot, and this piece of wood flew right into the face of a villain. It seems that it is quite painful from such a powerful blow. A crack in the floor appeared under the man. The blonde calmly, as always, and a cold look began to examine the situation around. And just after such a sudden appearance, our hero had extinct. When he again finally saw his beauty, he was very happy and could not hold back a smile. The girl was more interested in the fact that it was just now, and she grabbed him by the shirt. She was disgusting to look at him, and she threw him to the ground. In such very unusual circumstances, the lady asked him to marry her. Their conversation continued at home then. His screams were heard everywhere. The boy began to torment his mother-in-law again. He no longer knew how to avoid this. To his great happiness, a wife was nearby who asked her mother to stop it, because they still need Shen alive. After all what happened to him, he needs to remove the curse, after everything that happened, not only to live together, but also to sacrifice with his heart. And it seems that she is going to break the contract. The daughter tried to stop her mother, because there are dozens of dogs on the outside trying to catch their prey. She only snorted displeasedly and still decided to let the young guy go. He fell to the ground. It was not clear to him what these people were standing in front of him, having heard only about it. His mother-in-law became furious that demons were in front of him. Of course, our hero does not know how to respond to this, and therefore just laughed. He would like to rather wash the fishing rods from here and as soon as possible, but he was stopped. The guy was confused and promised to do everything that they wanted, but only on condition that they would not eat it. The demon's daughter recalled that they were no longer doing this, and she really wants him to marry her. Although he considers himself an ordinary person, his mother-in-law thinks that there is definitely something special in him. This hero was slightly embarrassed, and he decided to launch one of his piquant jokes. In general, under all this, the ladies had in mind the traces of marriage on it, and the guy immediately arose the question of how they could know that he was not an ordinary person. Her daughter, Yan Genius, and this happens once a century, she is just one step from ascension at such a young age. But shortly after her birth, she was seized with someone. And if she does not marry someone who has the same printing, will never be able to get out. After that, the girl will encounter hellish lightning if she makes a breakthrough, and that is why our hero is the only person in this world who has a second half of the marriage. After such a news, the guy almost did not climb on his forehead. Only now he began to realize that he really had something special in him. The woman nodded her head. Their family was looking for him for a long time, and as soon as the daughter could rise, he could calmly leave here. In the meantime, if he behaves well, then her mother will be so to be a servant in this house. If everything is accurate and vice versa, she promises to turn his life into hellish torment. All the everyday life of our hero was associated with all kinds of assignments. Now, for example, he carefully washes the floor in the living room, in the costume that was given to him. After a long time of cleaning, he can finally breathe a sigh of relief. A lot of trouble has recently fell upon him. Not only did he become a member of the demonic nest, but also the mother-in-law came across. This is incredibly infuriated. He would like to rest. Suddenly, some girl began to peep behind him, and she was very surprised that he could so easily get out of his mother's room. And as far as she remembers, If after the wedding the cultivation of her sister is ascended to perfection, then the son-in-law will already be useless. She would very much like to get him. Only from one thought her heart began to pound furiously. Meanwhile, a meeting was held in one dark eatery. It was already coming to an end, and its leader, together with his subordinates, discussed the action plan that concerned our hero, and really hopes that this little man will surprise them. The brunette, as a mother-in-law demanded, replaced the entire plumbing of which he managed to use, and found a golden toilet in the warehouse. He was incredibly proud of this find. It is one of the most expensive, and besides, it is beautifully combined with the interior. Now he is interested in what mother-in-law may have excuses to punish him again after such a wonderful work. The younger sister heard his thoughts and asked for whom he was talking about. Of course, Sean was scared and even shuddered. But when he managed to consider it, it seems to him that he had already seen her before. She is a member of the Research Institute and is very proud of this. It seems that she too is slightly cruel, and with the blow of her legs only sent him to the bunk. In such a very unusual way, the girl decided to show her interest in him and wants to know him better. She told him that she was the second daughter of the Liu family, and her name is Dudu Liu. Now our hero can calmly say hello to the bride, but also, he asked her to calm down, because he believes that there was a kind of misunderstanding. When my sister got closer to him, he jumped out of bed. He was a little embarrassed. Xion confidently stated that he was devoted to his beautiful, magnificent wife, and also said that he considered his mother-in-law a gentle and virtuous woman with a powerful aura. The two guys fell silent abruptly and began to look at each other. And here, the master came to our hero that this was perhaps some kind of test, and someone is watching him. Dodo stumbled her beautiful face with her hand and hinted that she was injured now, and maybe she needed help. There was a bruise on her knee, very small and inconspicuous, but still was so sick. The guy almost went crazy. He has a wife and a mother-in-law always following him. If he dares at least something with his younger sister, he will have to sleep every day in a huge pile of snakes. Suddenly, the girl had a strange symbol around her neck. Our hero watched her carefully. After his appearance, her neck began to hurt a lot, as if someone was squeezing. Her face acquired a painful appearance, and now Sheen does not know exactly what to do with her. Since there are no mother-in-law nearby, then he came closer to her and decided to try her forehead, which was burning, as if she had a very high temperature. And here, he heard the voice of the one that he did not want at the moment at all. The woman entered the room and asked what he was doing here. The brunette bounced off the bed where their sister was lying and immediately began to change the topic. He began to rush around the room with a bewildered look and reported that he replaced their toilet with gold. The mother-in-law lifted one eyebrow and looked him directly in the eye. And then her gaze rushed at the bed. Her daughter rose from her place and, tired of intonation, asked what she was doing here. It seems that she was seriously angry. The woman comes closer to our hero. She needs a reasonable explanation of how Daodu was here. Our hero believes that it will be better if she asks her herself, because he knows nothing about this. As it turned out, the girl does not remember at all how it turned out in this place, and recently she became frequent. Her mother wants to take her to the doctor for examination. Xian decided to leave the room under the noise, but unfortunately for him, the mother-in-law did not allow it to do this. The guy obediently returned to the room. He, as a servant, is obliged to fulfill his duties. The blonde surprisingly did not give him a hat and politely asked to cook dinner and continue in the same spirit, to which the guy smiled in response. They also have a rule that the Liu family prepares all their food on their own and never buy anything outside the house. The ingredients are in the backyard, and the woman gave him the order to begin. Sean nodded his head and immediately ran to the other part of the house. Of course, the mother-in-law is sure that he will not cope with this task at all. But he believes that it is important for him to understand that his stay in this family is different from his past. Our hero wants to show himself the power of the legendary impeller and is confident in himself. When he had already arrived at the place, the only thing that began to embarrass him was some strange and huge columns, and when he raised his head up, he saw the leaves of the carrot. Of course, from such a spectacle, his eyes almost did not get on his forehead. He even began to think that he was in a dream. His conversation with himself was heard by the younger sister of the demons, and told him that none of the people had tried such a thing in their life, because this is not a simple carrot, but a centenary. The brunette glanced at the girl, and then again a monstrously huge plant at this. Monstrously, if you look at her like that, it will not be easy to pull out. He proudly stated that vegetarian food is very harmful, and therefore he wants to go to buy meat dishes, hinting that he can easily cope with a pig. Since it went, then there are no problems. Dudu wants to look at this show with interest. The guy immediately realized that she has in mind, is there really a pig behind him? There is, of course, but not her. But a huge mouse. And if so, then with her he will not have any special problems. A lot of goosebumps ran through his body. He asked the girl, "What this huge rat eats?" "Really, people?" She only sighed heavily in response and climbed onto her. She was ridiculous that useless little people could not cope even with the mouse. Having scratched the back of the head, the boy decided that it would be even healthier to eat vegetarian food, for example, this 100-year-old carrots, and he suggested that they eat meat. The girl began to ignore him. Of course, she expected another reaction, and therefore she just watched how he was trying to dig at least one carrot with little Sapa. And so everything went on until the evening. Already on the horizon, a beautiful sunset became visible and it was dark. The guy was tired of all this. He blames himself that he did not know before that all the snakes eat rats. And he did not know that this one would be so huge. The younger sister sat and laughed with him. Is it really so difficult to just pull her out? When our hero looked at her, he saw that behind him this rat raged and was going to attack. He would be worth warning the girl about danger. Unfortunately, she did not have time to react in time and received a good blow to the head. The rodent had enough one blow to break as many as 2 thick carrots at a time. She was attacked by the Road King. Dudu warned him that he should leave this place and save his life. Our hero, of course, wants to protect her, because if she does not run away right now, then she will be eaten. As expected, the animal did not leave towards its attempts to attack again, and already swung on the blonde. Sheng believes that flight is much worse than death, and it is better to choose a painful path, after which he will at least respect himself. It was on these reasoning that he was going to act further, covering the young lady. His seal was activated from behind, forming something like a small barrier. To protect Madame, he approached her and simply hugged her to be closer to the center of protection. Suddenly, a small explosion is heard behind him, but quite loud, which was stabbed in his ears. A mother-in-law came to their aid. It was she who struck this mouse. The woman did not quite understand what was happening, and therefore asked these 2 guys, standing on their defense. The guys looked at her bewildered and did not know what to answer, obviously did not expect that this evil woman would defend them. She would also report the rodent, but that he found himself weaker than opponents. From her blow at the rat, even in his ears rang, and he no longer knows what to do. The very first thing he came to mind was to escape as soon as possible. However, the mother-in-law managed to grab him by the tail and ridiculed him for such behavior. And after that, the rat stepped on him with a heel. It seems that it is not quite pleasant for him, and he grimaced. It is very good that he managed to break out. The tail broke away from the evil Yaner away, and then viciously looked at her and said that he intended to kill these 2 children in order to alleviate his anger. The only thing that is incomprehensible is my mother-in-law is why it is so nervous. Is it really connected with that putrid smell? The mouse became in the combat stance, thanks to the previously eaten pill, and it can now use such great and powerful magical arts. He is so angry that he wants to deal with all of them now, including this woman. Our hero looked at Yaner. He would not want her to continue to provoke him. The demon laughed with his self-confidence, and she is not going to lag like that. Our hero is madly like her charisma that he almost fainted. Meanwhile, while they were talking, the rat has already hung over them and is going to attack. The mother-in-law also does not sleep, and already in poster prepared its medium-sized spell. And so they collided. Each side is strong, and everyone wants to give a hat to another. In this battle, of course, Yaner won. The mouse fell to the ground. A few seconds passed and the rat did not even move. It seems he clearly overestimated his capabilities. Our hero is amazed at her by force, and the girls whispered in his ear, which clearly admires her. This destructive force corresponds to countless teams of the demolitions. The long-haired only smiled. She would like to get allowing her to explain everything to him. Sheena would be interested to listen to her, as it turned out that there were 7 ranks in the world of demons. The first is enlightenment, and the second transformation. The third is mental, according to her. The fourth is about dematerialization by large accounts. Rank number 5 sounds slightly unusual, called the discovery of key. The 6th is called a return to the beginning. And the very last that sounds a little frightening is decapitating. As for her older sister, she is a master of this very 7th, and is just 1 step from the ascent. Of the 10 great forces of the world of demons, his wife is 11th, but she does not want to fight any of them. And then it was she who interrupted their pleasant conversation, asking the guy to find someone who could get out in the yard, and then ordered to return to the room in order to discuss something. As it turned out, the third rank was wounded by the second, and therefore the woman asked her younger sister to return to herself and engage in mental training. Everyone parted in their places, and when Shen got into the room to his wife, the first thing he fell to his knees and admitted that he had fully screwed up. He also asked not to kill him, trying to somehow justify himself. And what was the worst thing for him was Yan's silence. The woman listened to him and threw a small ring to him on the floor. It is very reminiscent of the crown of Sun Ukun in shape, and Shan politely asked how he could help him. The blonde folded her arms over her chest and ordered him to be removed as soon as he encounters danger, and in this case, she will soon come to his aid. Now our hero will be very much appreciated by him. Until then, he was really very difficult for him. And his woman, and the day does not get away from the thought that she wants to deal with him with her own hands, and feels incredibly humiliatingly, as if called an animal. In addition, she said that if he would flirt with this thing and often call it, then this will become his unhappy end here. The blonde caused her strength of fire and placed the kid in a huge fiery ring. Although she cannot stand him, but now she needs him as never before. A silence arose between them. And at that time, our hero thought about everything that happened. The guy remembered how he saved her younger sister and was proud of it. In the meantime, he flew in the clouds, the fire began to dispel, and only magical smoke remained around. The time was already later, which means the most suitable in order to have dinner. Other servants have already set the table accompanied. There were a lot of all kinds of goodies. When Shan came to the place, he could not believe his eyes that there would be such food at a long banquet table. And judging by the behavior, he cannot understand how these ladies can be called demons. Even the only stay here for him looks like heaven. So many expensive dishes here look quite appetizing. The first thing that caught his eye was red meat. Just at that moment, he noticed how two other servants at the corridor carry a bound huge rat. He now began to even vilely look at him what was made of a rodent. Only from the awareness of this, he was drawn to puke. And he did not even notice that his wife was watching his behavior. She did not look at such disgrace. The woman prescribed him a good lace. Of course, the demon has a rather strong blow, so much so that the brunette flew through the balcony. Planting for him was not the softest, on a hard stone. The bride came to him and said with evil that he would have to sleep on the street today. He hit the buttocks heavily and very angry at this demon, promising that as soon as he ascends to the top, she would still receive her. Her younger sister turned to an angry mother and sister. She believes that she was too rude with him because they do not eat rat meat, but at the same time slipped him. The girl took a cage with a rat king, who had already decreased in size to normal sizes and began to consider it. Shen's wife would admit that the rodent deserves a thorough study. Eaten before that made him like that. Now she clearly lost her magical power, but intelligence is competing with human. The younger sister raised the question that since the son-in-law saved her, then she should somehow thank him. Mom asked not to call him like that. And even if he activated the seal to save her today, he will still eat rat meat. Our hero was sitting near a large booth, which was even more than him, and sneezed from the cold. The guy turned to the dog and asked to share his room, because it is incredibly cold on the street. He spoke to him with a smile and tried to make contact. Suddenly, under his foot, he felt something strange, from which he was twisted. Shan stepped on his tail and was confused when he understood everything. The dog looked at him with evil, as if preparing to attack, and the young guy tried to apologize. He is very sorry that it happened. This is all a pure accident. The dog jumped on him and dragged him into the booth as he wanted. Somehow, our hero still survived this terrible night. And in the morning, he went to an educational institution. He somehow got to the university, and he was very bad today because he had not eaten anything since yesterday. And here, the brunette feels a strange touch to himself, turns around, but there is no one behind. As it turned out, this is his old friend who is very glad to see him, and specially early came to the place to chat with him. It seemed to her that he could no longer get out of the kingdom of this feminine tenderness, where he lives now. Lily is the only native person for him, and he owes a lot to her. When suddenly the girl was confused and climbed into her handbag. She is very attentive and caring, and could not help but notice that he was feeling bad, because he probably didn't have breakfast at all, and held out a container with delicious food. Our hero even got tears with joy. He really wants to eat and gain strength now. The last thing he ate is a barbecue from the wedding table, and therefore, he is very grateful to his friend for his help. The girl began to worry and asked if it was true that the family of Liu did not feed him at all. Our hero sat next to him and began to gobble up a delicious breakfast, and as his friend said, Rumors are that they go to school are true. The brunette does not want to talk about it so directly, and therefore asked to tell her about this in more detail. It is said that he lives on the content of Yan Air, but the family treats him as if with a slave. She also left his favorite drink for him. The guy grabbed him and began to drink that it seemed that he could choke. His girlfriend found it cute and first asked to chew everything well and then answer. Time everything came closer to the lessons, and she would have to put all the things in her purse in order. Our hero asked whose hands it was who spread such rumors, and besides this, he managed to blame that everything was so, from which the girl was slightly scared. But the guy approached her and repeated his question, refuting that it was true. In order to somehow smooth out the situation, he said that in this family they turned to him as if to the king. The brunette smiled, although it raised her mood today, and besides this, she promised that she would help if she began to offend him. The guy laughed and hinted that Yan Er was very obedient, but he himself did not understand why he was saying this. Suddenly, their pleasant conversation was interrupted by the guys who wanted to chat about it. The face of our hero immediately changed, but he asked me to go without him, throwing everything to the fact that these were his old acquaintances. One of the guys looked him directly in the eye. I said that now, from today, he is his subordinate. Sean did not even take his eye. It should be the opposite, because today, he plans to become the head of the school. One person from the gang began to mock, exposing him to the master, the young head of the nude family in first place. The red-haired woman looked him directly in the eye and said that he was jealous of his rare luck. Let him enter her matriarchal marriage, but should understand that many of those who pose a danger to him want to get. The fat man reminded him that this woman is a demon. And is it really worth it to get into the devilish affairs? If it were not for the order of his master, who sounded so that he would consider him his younger brother, then he would already burn him on the roof of the library. And this is precisely the whole reason for his kindness. If he refuses all this, then he will not have a chance to be a cuckold. And according to the fat man, only death will be expected. It seems that even such tricks on Shen did not work. He decided to directly abandon everything that he was offered. Other men from this non-enjoyable company began to be angry. Everything is really not so simple with the person who joined the Liu family. And here, our hero falls on their knees, almost crying. He still decided to tell that his story with them is only beautiful in words, but in fact they keep him as a food supply. These people do not know that he never even touched Yan Er. His position here is lower than that of the servants. He is not even allowed to eat. The fat man looked at him and cannot understand why the master eyes wear of this guy, so he also made him become a named brother. Our hero turned to Nude and asked if he was a member of his company, whether the demons would attack him, which only that one laughed to. He can guarantee him only a little defense, but he can become calm for his rear only after a divorce from that woman. Sheng promised him that when returning home, he would raise this topic, and besides this, his new brother promised to help him in difficult situations. A long-time usual guy did not feel such support from someone, and he was insanely pleased. When he ran away, the guys began to whisper among themselves. They quickly fulfilled the order of the master, and he will clearly be satisfied. This man was much more obedient. In addition, Nude sees him with an ordinary little man. No one dares to resist his will. Meanwhile, our hero flooded under the trees and thought, it turns out that behind the back of this guy there is another person. The brown-eyed was slightly surprised that Yan Er attracts so much attention to himself. He would like to come up with a plan how he can get her. However, now it's time to deal with the most important culprit of his suffering. Meanwhile, after that skirmish in the office, the director went all the bandaged. Even despite this most unpleasant event in his life, he tried to be funny and sang something under his breath. Our hero approached his cabinet and carried something behind his back, and his new brother talked with his leader through a magic ball and brought him information that Shen is much more weak than any simple person. However, even despite the fact that the man asks him to be careful, you can't talk about it exactly, you need to find out its limit. And since he had taken a closer look at this Yan Er, it certainly cannot be the most common. The fat man smiled and said that he did not have him, because even surrounded by many people he showed himself not in the best way. If his human limit lies not in his dignity, it means that he hides where something more important. Their conversation smiled to his girlfriend, and she at one time quietly, peacefully painted something in the notebook. And at school, a real hype began. Everyone went to complain about the rector of the institution of two poor Shan's behavior. The guys were with multiple fractures and injuries. It was this guy who beat them. The old man himself does not know what he should do. He only once at the beginning of the school year made a remark to him. and he resorted to such methods. She is still covering him now. Everyone was very disappointed in him. This guy oppresses others with his master behind the back, and at that time they met at the stadium, which was suspiciously empty, and it seems that the whole work of Nude's hands. Our hero delights him very much. His glory has no borders. However, the thought of why he cleared this field still does not leave him, to which he only smiled and said that today they have to do a real masculine business. Soon a person who needs to be taken experience should come. And here, their conversation was interrupted by his friend Mi Li. She was wondering what happened, why he called her here. But this was not he, but Nude. And for some reason a strange feeling appeared in the heart of our hero. The guy grabbed her hand and turned to his friend that he was going to first leave her. His brother did not like that he was pretending to be a fool. Since he would go, then this lady will remain. Sheen turned to him and recalled that he is a son-in-law Liu, and if at least one hair falls from the head of this cute girl, he will pay in full. The brunette stands in a light confusion and does not understand what is happening, although her friend promises to figure it out completely. The fat man attacked our hero and hit him on the head. He is very funny with the thought that they would really dare to stand up for him. The girl wanted to intervene, but already saw how this terrible person was approaching her. An evil smile stretched on his face. He finally thinks that he could get his own, but it wasn't there, the Shane, although it is unbearable, but rises exactly to his feet and is going to fight with him to the end. The fat fell to the ground after his blow in the stomach and coughed. Lee is still bewildered, and Shan is trying to somehow support her. Hearing these words, she smiled sweetly and blushed slightly. She is very pleased that she stood up for her. While they looked at each other, Nude rose exactly to his feet and turned a daring tone to our hero. He reminded him that even if he could not kill him, but easily knock out all the nonsense easily, a trembling ran across his body, and here he began to feel that someone was approaching him. At an incredible speed, the fat man attacked him and grabbed him by the neck, ticking to the ground. Then he got up and began to hold above his level, mocking the weakness of people. Our hero noticed that all the demons a priori like to squeeze their neck before suffocation, and probably they do not know that it is dangerous. Sean came up with acting differently and hit Zadir between his legs. It's good that he did not expect this and could not put the block. He screamed in pain and let his enemy go to the ground. It seems that such a sudden attack only angered him, and he is going to deal with him right now once and for all. Suddenly, their fight interrupts and a strong explosion is heard. The fat man is still furious and panting, trying to understand what happened. One man who was able to pacify the ardor of this bully was to the side of our hero and his girlfriend. And since he is here, no matter how this fat man would like, he wouldn't work on the ground of young people. In a case when this man only appeared, Shung managed to remove the ring that his wife gave him. And the only question that is in his head was why she still did not come to their aid. And here, his thoughts interrupted the nasty voice of this crazy demon. From his pocket, he took out some kind of strange pill. Without hesitation, Nude swallowed it in accordance with the plan. After a couple of seconds, an incredibly strong wind rose around him, which threw the guys far from him. The man who came to the rescue came closer to him and asked our hero to control his girlfriend's condition. She lost consciousness from fear and can easily suffer. There were a huge beast from a huge cloud and smoke came out. We could conclude that thanks to these tablets it could turn into an animal. His movements became many times faster and he himself became more resilient. And all pairs already rushed to Sean and his girlfriend. The man jumped on his back and tried to somehow hold this stubborn bull. The young guy covered the young lady and began to mentally resent that his wife did not come to his call. And the old man was already on his way to ride him, and he seized the horn to the ground as much as possible. Meanwhile, our hero was already able to bring to his feelings and put on his feet. Their assistant viciously looked at this Baishara, but he asked him to slow down on good, and now he settled on him and watches young people. Our hero almost did not climb on his forehead from what they saw. The guy fell to his knees in front of a man and thanked him for such a knightly act. He risked his life for them. Coffin silence came, and Sean decided to interrupt her and asked what kind of bull this was so huge. Their assistant began to connect his huge hooves, and also said that the fence fell on the back slope of the mountain, and therefore the bull of local farmers was able to run out. Of course, for this he is very large, but still, he must return him to the owners as soon as possible. And also, the man filled the guy to go to the curator's office to meet him. In surprise, he looked after him. This school is clearly fraught with many secrets. While Shan looked after Meili and shaking off sand and other dirt from her school uniform, his wife approached them. Finally, she arrived at the call, but now she's wondering what happened here. The girl looked at her fiancé with a worried look, but it seems that our hero does not want to tell her anything, and therefore said that he was just checking the effectiveness of the ring, and now he was going to take the medical center to a classmate. The blonde told him, since it went to the fact that she was dealing with the rat demon and therefore lingered and came at the wrong time. She must have been very tired after such a battle, and therefore the brunette asks her forgiveness, but that disturbed her. The bride also knows that this ring crashed, and therefore it brought a new one. But to her surprise, the guy refused such a proposal. He wants to solve his problems on his own. The girl looked at the battlefield, and it is obvious that he comprehended only the third rank, but at the same time he was able to restore his true body for the battle in the formation of the depressed spirit. After all the thoughts, she only sighed heavily and grabbed her head. Yan begins to recall that the restrictions on magic seals are becoming more and more frequent recently, and in her appearance one can confidently say that this is in earnest. Meanwhile, our hero had already attributed his girlfriend to the first aid post. After a while, the doctor came to him and said that everything was fine with her, and he could not put his mind, he cannot establish the reasons for the loss of consciousness. Just think about how many demons are still in this school besides that street bulk. It is very annoyed by the fact that the most basic problem that hung over it has not yet been solved. Shan now has no idea how to look in the eyes of Yaner. Meanwhile, the leader of that demon mocked everything that happened. After a short conversation, he decides that it is still very early to stop the espionage. Meanwhile, our hero went to the next office, where he had a meeting with the curator. Fortunately for him, he did not have to look for him. The man sits still. It seems that the old man completely forgot that the guest should come to him, and therefore was slightly confused. And besides, for his carelessness, he was reprimanded from the student. The man coughed and asked for forgiveness for completely forgetting that he had called Shan to himself. The guy went into the office and asked for what purpose he wanted to see him here. He did not say anything specific and asked our hero to go with him. They left the office and went somewhere accompanied by the curator, of course. Our hero is very impatient and he is interested in what he was up to. In response, the man was only silent and went to climb up the stairs. And finally, when Shan caught up with him, the curator was able to say with confidence that they had arrived. They found themselves on the roof of the school building, and twice as many questions appeared in the head of our hero. The man turned to him and held out his hand. The guy raised an eyebrow and looked at him from under his forehead. And he in all seriousness wants him to give his back. He does not like these tactfulness, and therefore he touched his palms only with his fingertips. But unfortunately, such a number did not pass for him. The curator grabbed his wrist with his hand and squeezed it tightly. One moment, and he abruptly jumps down the roof down. He scared the poor fellow boy almost to death. Below, some portal formed through which they needed to go through. After two men entered there, a light breeze rose around. Inside, Shan still could not recover. While his curator was calm as a door, the man grabbed the guy by the belt of his pants and asked to open his eyes and look around, trying to convince that everything was in order. In the end, he was tired of holding this coward, and therefore he loosened his grip. Our hero was still shaking after such an unexpected trip to another dimension. When Shan looked up, he saw that he was in the demon suppression department. His mind was slightly blurred, and therefore he began to examine everything more thoroughly. Finally, after a long time, the man named his real name. His name is Liu Chen, and he is a participant in this department and believes that it would be nice if this particular guy began to cooperate with them. Somewhere among the gratings, a very familiar voice was heard. A strange woman in a black cloak approached him, and she also heard all his cries. The fat man who wanted to attack an innocent schoolgirl was in an incredible rage and knocked on a bars. The woman came closer to him and with a smile said that she was familiar with the owner of one restaurant that was called Lanzo Ramen, and he was very interested in him. The fat man is now incredibly angry and thinks that they are trying to intimidate him in such a miserable way. He tries to put himself above this uninvited guest, hinting that she did not contact him. The blonde without words put her hand to the bars and seems to be going to let out this villain. Our hero thought about this department and can make an assumption that they know about his printing marriage, but surprisingly, it should be stored a secret. And as the curator told him, everything they said in this place cannot be tracked. And then in Shan, the question arises in his head, why he was not called an ordinary person. And it all started since he became the demon's son-in-law. And according to the old man, they were looking for him to restore the unfair attitude of the Liu family towards him. He promises to help our hero in return to help them keep them all under supervision. Of course, such a proposal for the guy seemed slightly sudden and even sharp. Having considered everything a little, Sean decided to refuse and was about to leave. But for some reason, the curator insisted and wanted to bring benefits to him. It seems that the boy was already more to his liking, and he ran up to him with interest. The very first thing to understand our hero is that between people and demons there is no such thing as trust. He turned and said that to warn ordinary mortals from evil spirits is the duty of every person. The guy only rolled his eyes from his boring lectures and again stepped aside. And the reason is all that Yaner is his wife, albeit a demon, and ask him to help to follow her is a stupid idea. It immediately became clear that he leads to the fact that he was ready for this only for a certain payment, and in the case of its curator, even if there is no money, then the usual secret code is suitable. The old man told him that after help, he would be listed as a freelance employee of the department with great privileges, and will also be able to count on their help without problems. But still, Sean does not see pluses in this. That he is already a member of the Lee family gives him a lot of handicap. The man only laughed. He sees perfectly that this young man does not understand what the true power of the demon suppression department lies. They need to know the course of the events of all of them. According to him, they are also quite capable of withstanding those who are not capable of the Liu family. The guy smiled at him. He is very glad that he could become part of such a powerful organization. And in the end, Sean agreed to his conditions and promised to find out about everything that these demons hide from prying eyes. Meanwhile, in their center, the woman still did not finish the conversation with that fat man, and it seems that he normally got it on the head from her. The blonde is very angry with him. Even his father does not dare her like that, and his son is even more so. The guy got to his feet and sang completely differently. Realizing that he was not in height in this situation, he is ready to tell her anything that he knows. It seems that it arranged it, but in order for everything to be honest, she put a barrier nearby. Looking him right in the eye, the woman said that if he dares to lie to her, they are activated. The fat man bowed to her and made it clear that he was ready to tell everything he knew. Her first question was how he managed to only restore the demonic body with the third rank. At first he was a little confused, but then he remembered that he had lost consciousness right after taking a pill. One mysterious person gave these pills to his father, saying that they were able to increase strength, and therefore he offered him cooperation. However, Dad refused. Suddenly, lightning who are on his body sharply changed their position and began to tingle. It seems that after these words, the blonde got angry. She promises that he will pay for this tablet, and now the woman ordered that from this day he would obey Mishan. When the fat man fell, he was now painful to move. Did she really want to turn him into her slave? However, after fulfilling her decree, she promises to leave him, and it seems, in order to survive, the demon is ready to fulfill her order. She waved her hand and could disperse all the magic lightning from him with a slight movement. The woman knows very well that the tablet is able to allow the owner of the third rank to overcome the formation and reincarnate into the animal. She would be worth meeting with the elder of the Bull clan. Meanwhile, someone's singing is heard in the school court. This is our hero today in a good mood, and taking a twig of a tree that looks like a microphone, it goes here. He did not even notice how someone came up behind him and watched all this circus. This is his wife Yan. Having heard only her voice, the boy's trembling ran through the body. He turned out of decency to face her, and does not know what to say and therefore can only look at the sides be confused. When Shan finally came to his senses, he was shy but asked the girl why she was looking for him. Also that little rat, and kept something in his paws, also stood next to her. Today, Yan at the stadium felt the same spiritual wave as on the day when the Mouse King ate a pill. When she told this, it was clear that she was very worried. According to her, overcoming the formation and reincarnation into an animal is an event that stunned the whole world. The Fluffy praised her and wanted to get into dialogue. Our hero was slightly embarrassed and said that he just wanted to talk about it with her. His wife held out her hand forward and teleported to a slightly different place. There was continuous darkness around him, and he did not understand where he was. After a couple of seconds, they found themselves at their home. You see the rat sighed heavily, as far as he knows for demons of the 5th rank. Moving in space is a mere trifle. Xian looked at him and got slightly angry. It seems to him that the tailed is lying, because it is clear that he was sweating all. His wife teleported them right near the house and ordered the Mouse the King to return to himself, but she asked her husband to follow. When they went inside, the girl first jumped on a soft sofa and asked why he needed the demon suppression department. The guy only laughed in response. He knew for a long time that he could not hide anything from her. and he also reported that his curator was among them, and even was the head. Meanwhile, the rat already, when he saw the snakes, he jumped faster into his cage and was trembling all. But the most important member of the Demon Suppression Department has already arrived at its highest leader. He needed to report everything that he learned during this time. And of course, the information was about our hero. He described him as a person who does not have an inner rod and worries for his life. Although they can use it, they should still observe vigilance, because people like he quickly agree, according to the boss. But also quickly give them. The old man nodded his head and looked at him from under his forehead. He promises to analyze his every denunciation. However, this is not necessary. The boss only wants to check the attitude of the Liu family to the department. And it is also important for him to know how things are with the young master of the Nude family. The old man fell to his knees and told him that he was now in the punishment department, and also admitted that he had only adopted this tablet, and it seems that its leader does not use this department. Meanwhile, our hero had already created a suitable situation and was going to tell everything to his mistress in all its glory. But then, she turned her back to him, and it seems to have fallen asleep. The brunette decided to come closer to her and consider. She really sleeps tightly in appearance. A very good moment in order to take his legs out of here. Shen already began to take away on the door on tiptoe. But unfortunately, his plan failed immediately. Yan called him and reminded him with a rough intonation that she did not allow him to leave. The guy immediately jumped closer to her and said that he noticed that she had dozed off and did not want to disturb her sleep, and therefore decided to go out for a couple of minutes. She was a little embarrassed by this. He completely does not know how to tell stories, but now it is not so important. Now she needs to talk to him about something else. Before starting, she asked him to come closer. She crossed her arms over her chest and reminded that her husband hugged another girl today. And besides, he also rude to her from above. It was clear how she was angry with him. She released her snake and twisted our hero. The guy kicked and tried to justify herself that the truth was worried that she could overwhelm and therefore took everything to herself. For Yan, it is humiliating to have such a husband who dares to touch other female individuals. The boy looked at her and tried to get out somehow. It seems that he did not really succeed. However, it seems that she merged over him, that this was a special circumstance, and the fact that this was his first misconduct. After hearing, he sighed in relief, but it was too early to rejoice. Yan promised only to break his hands that hugged that girl. She had already decided what fate awaits him. And now the matter has passed to that brunette. His wife promises that this little man will pay for his deed. In addition, in a fit of emotions, she waved a fist on our hero, and he shouted loudly. During this, his seal was also activated, unexpectedly for him. Yan's eyes lit a bright light, and she was thrown back, away from our hero. He himself fell into a stupor and did not know what to say, not expecting such an incident. It was something similar to an explosion in sound and in appearance. And the blonde, meanwhile, is already lying on the floor. The guy is very glad that now he is so cool that it can also use some kind of strength. Looking at the fact that he was able to recapture the demon's attack, a smile begins to appear on his face slowly. And soon she completely outgrew into a loud laughter. Now our hero is beside himself with joy and considers himself incredibly cool. Even the Mouse King with other snakes heard his laugh and were distracted from his classes. The rat ate his yummy, which he managed to capture in the cage, and the first thing that came to his head was that Yan was able to bring him to madness. After a while, he finally fell silent and was able to carefully examine his wife. She still lies on the floor and cannot recover, as if she had lost consciousness. This was the proud of Shan. This marriage seal is incredibly strong. Finally, after a long time, he had the feeling that he could change his fate and rise above these demons. But no. For starters, he needs to figure out how it works and how to use it. Our hero became in the combat rack and tried to somehow start moving. He wants to simulate the movement now, as if he was fighting with someone. But for some reason, his attempts were unsuccessful, and therefore he can only wave his arms and legs. The boy was very upset that nothing happened and only fell to the ground, sighing heavily. Now he is simply near the cave, not knowing the password from her. This feeling can only be compared with this. From all these obsessive thoughts, he began to literally boil his head. And here, he hears a familiar voice. It seems that Yan came to her senses and began to slowly climb. She does not understand at all what she is doing now, and why her head is so split so much. The guy came closer to her and said that everything was really fine with her. She just rested. And for some reason, he first had the idea that she caught amnesia. But after she asked him to take his legs out of here, he obediently nodded his head. He had been waiting for this moment for a very long time when he could finally get away from here, and therefore he ran out of the office as nice. On her orders, her snakes have already crawled to Yan. They should not cause him any harm now. Shan himself was rather galloped along the corridor. He is very glad that he now succeeds, and he can calmly relax from this annoying woman. Suddenly, he met their younger sister, and it seems she is very glad to see him. The girl met him with a wide smile, which for him is slightly surprising. The guy wanted to tie some simple dialogue with her. However, his attempts were unsuccessful. The blonde waved her fist and hit him in the stomach. He certainly did not expect such a good greeting, and he coughed heavily. Dudu decided to tell him that this is not her fault. Her sister forced her to do this. Just Yan had already come to her. She saw everything, and now clearly understands that her power has not yet stabilized. But the third rank is enough to deal with an ordinary person. Even if so, the long-haired does not understand why she treats him like that. To which the sister only snorted and gave free rein to him to laugh at him. And she turned around and left. After some time, our hero began to slowly rise to his feet, and only after that he realizes that any demon can deal with him. To recover, our hero was able to lean against the wall. Now he decides to stay stronger in his life, and while the marriage contract is operating, they will not kill him so quickly. Suddenly, he hears someone's voice in front of his nose, and when the guy finally opened his eyes, he saw a dog that looked at him menacingly. Shen certainly did not expect this to see the speaking dog for him, not the most common thing. The guy is now trying to reassure himself. He is now in the House of Demons, and therefore this should not be surprise. His voice trembled, but after a moment Shen thought that perhaps now he could make friends with him and be brothers. He crouched near the animal. It came here to make a remark. The son-in-law of the family Lu should behave better than now. The dog stood on his hind legs and demanded that he do not come to him to live in a booth again without any reason. The guy hugged him and cried, complaining that he was very difficult and scary to live with demons. The only friend for him is this dog. He only sighed in displeasure and already headed for the exit. And Shan waved his hand and said goodbye to him. And then the brunette remembered his mother. He was scared to imagine what a reaction would be if she had found out in what condition he was. By the evening, nothing more had happened. Our hero did not notice how he managed to get dark on the street. All the guys gathered in the kitchen, and the younger sister was so delighted with what she saw. This time, their wonderful cooks tried very well and prepared many beautiful and tasty dishes, from which even saliva flowed. In addition, our hero had already met her and politely bowed to her, asking him to sit down. His wife was also here, and she was very suspicious that her forever dissatisfied and uncultured husband now shows excessive politeness. She even had suspicions that he poured something poisonous to them, but this was not acting on them, and Shan continued to behave like nothing. Her mother also reminded him that he wanted him to understand the fact that until the study is completed, he must behave in the way that he is appropriate for Liu's family. And also, at the end, she can promise him 100 millions for guarding the house. And having heard only about it, our hero even lit up his eyes. At this moment, she was ready to let him go. But her wife had other plans. She made it a very non-standard but familiar way for them. A kick in the stomach and the window. This time, landing was not soft for him at all. He hit his back very much, and besides, he scared the dog. The animal looked at him, and the guy began to dizzy slightly. Suddenly, unexpectedly for them, a strong explosion in the house is heard. Of course, this helped Shan to recover, but he was very scared and even jerked. Soon, all the girls who live in this house came to him. At first, he thought that they wanted to present something to him now and was already curving the dissatisfied grimace. The girls stood and looked at the starry sky. They had a bad foreboding. An uninvited guest granted them. A man apparently also has magical abilities, and he came to Yan Er to marry her. He approaches closer and closer to them, and our hero can only be observed from the outside. The old man again repeated his desire why he arrived here, so that he would certainly hear. It was clear from the face of the girl that she was seriously angry when she saw this person. The youngest went to Shan and put on his head some cap and asked to stand on the sidelines while the sister is dealing with everything. The guy threw her aside and went to Yan, because he believes that this old stump is much better. Her husband already began to annoy her. She poked her finger in her face and asked to be silent at least now until she led him on minced meat. The youngest began to laugh from them with two, and in the end came up to the boy. She did not think that her sister would not like him, although in fact she was not as angry as it seems. This old man who got into their courtyard without an invitation is also dissatisfied with the fact that his object of adoration is married to another person. It seems that he has too high self-esteem. He could not believe that he could be so stupid to turn away. Even my mother stood up to defend her daughter and immediately realized that this man was just narcissistic. According to her, only a worthy demon can become a contender for marriage with their family members. The old man with a scar is in the eye and is not going to retreat. He intends to marry Yan and then become the head of kinship. His girlfriend herself, on whom he put his eyes, already saw that he was some kind of mentally unbalanced, and therefore advises him to leave as soon as possible. It seems that he doesn't have one in his thoughts, but now he aimed at her groom. He does not hide that he is going to take his place now. He had to apply his strength, and his attack is aimed directly at Shan. The guy covered his head with his hands. A rather unpleasant feeling when everyone from all sides wants to kill you. When he opened his eyes, he saw in front of him Madame Yan, who stood up for him and was able to protect. The girl also confidently said that she could only decide who to marry. And after these words, the boy began to watery. Did she really like him? She even does not care that this person is not at all courageous and tearful weakly. While he is her husband, she certainly will not give him offense. Although our hero is happy, but these words touched him and he got a little angry. The blonde began to slowly approach the uninvited guest. She wants to show him where the crayfish winter. The same continues to carry the same blizzard and is trying to prove to the already married woman that he is better than her current husband. The guy, along with the dog, sat down near each other, and already in anticipation of a long battle. Only drinks and sweets are not enough. Her mother rushed directly to the old man and tried to attack him, but he turned his back to her and jumped high as well. A bad explosion formed from their collision. Since she managed to put the barrier, it seemed to our hero that the end of their battle had already come, because he thought that the enemy was defeated. The demon extended her hand forward. She felt some strange tingling in her. It was hard for her to fight. The old man admitted that she is certainly strong, but in order to defeat him, this would not be enough. She only laughed and again began to defend my son-in-law and daughter, and reminded that they had just begun to wave their fists. The Mouse King even ran out of the cage. The earthquake is too strong and he cannot stay there. And so, the mother of the demon jumps on his long cloak and has already crept as close as soon as she could. Rat-Roo went to his friend a dog and asked if he could join the battle, which he received consent. Shan, along with a younger sister, demon erupted the Ivanyatin. And during the conversation he found out that this mustache is most likely crazy, because he really has no strength like his mother. During the battle, Yan felt something strange between them two and also rushed to the aid, which scared her husband a little. She crept up to the old man from behind and attacked hundreds of snakes. He certainly did not expect this. She was able to hurt him unexpectedly. Our hero tried to support her like his wife, and the enemy already really wanted to learn such a trick. Suddenly, the mustachioed exposed his back and some kind of cobblestone flaunted on it. After that, he looked at all the participants in the battle and invited them to voluntarily surrender. Our hero also noticed that big thing and laughed that he was using a pot. Maybe he had an incontinence. The younger sister with his mother joined him. They began to discuss it among themselves and laughed loudly, but not Yan Er. And then she turned to them and asked a menacing tone to shut up soon. For her, this is not funny at all. When Mom attacked him and touched that place, she had a strange numbness in her hands. The guy coughed so that she turned his attention to him and asked to express himself as more correctly. The brown-eyed was embarrassed when she understood the meaning of that they wanted to convey to her, and simply looked away to the side, blushing. It seems that their angry jokes heard this old Krish and was in earnest. He began to approach them menacingly and also took out some strange pill from his pocket. Our hero was confused and shouted as louder as possible so that everyone was heard that he was going to accept something. The mouse, along with the dog, was also scared, and they wanted to take his feet out of here. The power of this person increased before our eyes. They all watched everything. For the guys, it is very surprising, but what kind of drug it is which allowed him to jump from the 5th layer to the 7th, this was felt by his allies. It seems the time has come. The curator's boss also felt some strange surge of the force wave. He got up from his chair and only smiled, to hope that he would not have to interfere with it personally. The whole process was watched by his subordinate, who hid thoroughly in the bushes and trees. Judging by everything he sees, he can conclude that the effect of this drug is much better than he could expect. Meanwhile, his object of adoration continues to try to resist somehow to this crazy man. His strength is already suitable for his peak, and the earth began to crack around him. Her mother ran up to her and decided that it would be best to attack together, and also be careful. The old man was already furious that he had to resort to such extreme methods, and all due to the fact that this girl did not go for him. She already answered all his questions, and is not going to change her decision. and therefore confidently breaks forward to attack him. It is very good that Yan is not one now, but with his mother, who is ready to intercede for her. However, why does this old man smile so much? It seems that their attacks are now useless. Shan's wife is very attentive and noticed that he had a strong defense and methods of attack. And even despite this, they are confident in their victory and are not going to give up. Her mother noticed that nevertheless, at least he was able to scratch. While they were watching him, they saw that he was torn from an excess of strength, and all his meridians burst at this pace. Even despite the unbearable pain, he is not going to retreat. The old man has already gone too far, but still does not want to give up until he has dealt with everyone here. Yan escaped to him and waved her hand. She is going to attack him while he is vulnerable. He looked at her with an oblique gaze and had already managed to substitute that huge pot. The girl with all her might hit her with her foot. It was enough for that only to get a crack there, but unfortunately could not destroy. After this cod, she felt some strange return. The blonde threw it to the side when the old man pulled this trough of stone. The mouse still sat on the head of the dog and watched the battle like everyone else. He admires this woman, who was able to at least hurt his defense. Our hero was about to get up and he would like to be a picture of his grandfather at the place of victory. However, it is still early to do it, because he is still alive. Suddenly, Yan looked at her mother and noticed the wound on her knee. It seems that she was poisoned. So that the poison does not spread through the body, she had to sit calmly and not move. In addition, you need to act quickly. The blonde leaned her hand against the affected area and applied the spell. Hearing this from the one on which the fetish on the poisonous snakes, our hero almost did not climb on his forehead. But the younger sister explained that the poisons are different. After her story, our hero became clear and he nodded his head, continuing to watch the battle. He is amazed at how this old man is hardy. He is not going to lag behind. Yan approached them and reported the situation. Her mother is still poisoned in her body, and therefore her ability to fight at the moment is limited. And then, Shan jumped up and said that he wanted to help her. Of course, his wife was against. Knowing him, he only does what he was talking in vain. However, given the fact that this distraught old man aimed precisely at him, this is their great chance to win. Our hero seemed to be delighted, but then he realized that they had in mind. They want to use it as a bait, and he does not like it at all. And here, Yan turned to him. She promised that since she was here, next to him, he would not go into the next world so simply. Before he could answer her, the demon ran forward here and was going to encounter this moron again. He considered this because she opened, and is also not going to just stand in a pillar. Grandfather deftly repelled her attack, and they literally collided in the very center of the battlefield. An increasingly bright light began to come from them, which literally blinds his eyes. At that moment, our hero noticed a tremendous difference between people and demons, and he was very lucky that his wife was nearby. Suddenly, he heard someone behind him. Unknown to Madame tried to get quietly to him and swung her incredibly huge fan. His wife reacted the very first and tried to somehow warn him about the danger. However, the brunette managed to notice some strange movements behind his back for an instant and slowed down a little. This time, he was very lucky that Yan arrived in time for help and was able to recapture the attack of another enemy. His body completely trembled with such a surprise because he could now say goodbye to his life. His wife sighed in relief and very glad that she managed to protect him. However, she had no more strength, but our hero managed to catch her. Soon she completely lost consciousness. The guy gently put it on the ground, trying not to hurt yet. Shan is incredibly angry at all those who are involved in the fact that they brought her to such a state. Suddenly, the mysterious girl stopped and said that he was next in line to get into the next world. She also heard some strange rustle in her right ear. It seems that she was not happy here. The old man wanted to hit her because he saw that she was trying to pick up his prey. The brunette was printed to the stone. It seems he still hit her. Our hero is not going to retreat too, and promises that they all pay for what they did. He is now absolutely sparing that he is an ordinary person and not a demon, that he does not have any unusual abilities and mana. When he carefully put his wife on the ground, she was still able to speak and asked to be careful, because they are stronger than ordinary people. As soon as Shan opened, the old man rushed to him and is going to deliver his first direct blow to him. In his eyes, the fire of confidence and thirst for revenge is burning for the fact that it was he who became her husband. Our hero also does not sleep, and he managed to activate the very seal. His desire to win and save this demon was above all, and exactly the same symbol appeared under it. Soon, Yan was healed and was able to become on her feet, and even put the barrier and protect him and hesitated from this. The blonde looked him directly in the eye and reminded that no one would ever touch her husband in her life. This is the real power of this press, and thanks to her, she was able to break through to the 8th level. This time she is definitely confident in her abilities. Now certainly this old man will come to an end. He already had to strategically retreat this time. He was trembling. He is very annoyed by this young man, because of which he cannot take the girl to himself. A lot of emotions rage in the depths of his soul. He can no longer restrain them and therefore screams as loudly as he can. Suddenly, Yan heard someone's voice behind her. That was the girl who dared to attack her husband. She asked to leave him on her. Her huge fan was completely covered in the full height of our hero. And here, he began to breathe heavily, and cold breath appeared in the place of his exhalations. This freezing area spread through its unusual weapons. His gaze became empty and indifferent. He could freeze this girl with a wave of his hand. And in his soul, there was a strange feeling, as if he were depressed. And he asked his wife what it was. She only opened her eyes wide and watched him without saying anything. Meanwhile, besides this, a terrifying cloud appeared in the sky. The girl was left to watch her. Something bright began to be seen from her center. The light continued to grow, and it does not look like ordinary lightning. The curator's boss also carefully looked at this whole picture and could not understand, was this a thunderstorm pressure? Having reviewed all possible scenarios, he did not find a logical answer why it could be so. Besides this, he is annoyed by what this girl is doing, full of absurdity. One of their allies was also amazed. The woman who visited the boy in prison also could not believe her eyes that ordinary people could fight. Suddenly, the boss from all thoughts distracted a very strange sound that came from his ball. In addition, this happened not only with him, but also with his colleague. Some strange crack began to disperse on this subject, which completely exploded. With the advent of these strange clouds, something strange, which was not subject to explanation, began to happen for everyone. The youngest grabbed her mother, who barely stood on her feet. It already seems to her that this is the end of the world that is approaching their eyes. Our hero can no longer control himself normally, and this cloud continues to grow. The demons are trying to at least somehow calm him down. His wife came a little closer and asked to imagine something good. Sean seemed to hear her and stopped, trying to gather his thoughts. He always had a dream to change his roles with these demons so that they would take care of him and make the whole routine. Suddenly, the smoke around him began to disappear. Gradually disappearing, the guy began to look around. In addition, this frightening sky also began to gradually disappear, and the moon with the stars began to be seen on it. In his soul, everyone became much calmer. The brunette turned to his wife and asked what was happening here. She only sighed in relief and fell to the ground, because they could just die. But the good carried it. The guy ran up to her and allowed to rely on his shoulder, still a little. And not only them, but the whole city could be erased from the face of the earth. From what he heard from our hero, his eyes almost did not climb on his forehead. He began to nervously examine everything around. First of all, he noticed that girl, whom he himself froze. She was already able to move her eyes. And soon she waved her hand again and tore this ice block into pieces. From a huge ball of smoke, which was still visible on the horizon, she appeared on a huge turtle that crawled directly to Sean and his wife. The girl was already alert. After the battle, her power was a little weakened, and therefore it would be much easier if this stranger had taken away her legs from here. But for some reason she behaves as if they knew her. She only sighed heavily. It is obvious that Yan does not remember anything. More than 1,000 years have passed. The long-haired ordered the turtle to stop and reminded that they had previously been rivals in cultivation. Our hero came closer to his wife. For some reason he believes that she tells the truth. She didn't react to this, but for a joke about the turtle and the former gave him a good head on the head. The girls agreed to refresh the memory. Her old friend was going to apply a special spell for this. A small whirlpool of water appeared next to them, and in them they saw their silhouettes. This is something very similar to the mirror for our hero, and he asked that it was, the girl has. An old friend Yan nodded her head, but it is a little unusual. The brunette is going to show them the events of 1,000 years ago, but they will only come out, or they depend only on them. Small splashes of water began to enter the body of our hero, and he watched with interest what would happen next. Their reflection became blurry and vague, and began to be distorted. Soon in their place appeared the silhouettes of a guy and a little girl. This all happened in a place that was very beautiful. Here is a large waterfall, which fell into a fast river. Around the singing of birds can also be heard, and also very strange. One nearby flies here and brought ashore where no one has a large shell. Suddenly, he turns and sees behind himself the silhouette of the girl. While he looked at her, at that time a small turtle began to get out of the river. The first thing she saw was his paw, and rushed forward. The animal quietly and imperceptibly picked up to the bird and bitten by the limb. From this touch, he shuddered already and almost cried out. He had to move away, and he somehow was able to do this. It was not so easy to get out of her jaws. And just at that moment, a little girl ran out of a thick forest. Her gaze immediately rushed at the turtle lying in the sun and a huge shell. It was Yan. She knows very well that this animal is a demon, but she is wondering why it is pretending. She had to approach her closer and take her in her arms. She rolled upside down and therefore it was completely uncomfortable to lie like that. It seems that this demon is very weak, there are a lot of enemies, and the little girl asked to take her legs away from here. Yes, it could. She would like to help, and therefore she tried to let him go into the water. In the end, the baby waved his hand and laughed merrily. This whole picture was watched by this bird, which is a similar enemy is tuned to them. Not far from this place was a swordsman who was resting in nature. Finally, after a hard day, he can sit and relax, looking at the bonfire. But here, he hears unfamiliar voices. Someone calls him. This is a small group of people who learned that he had previously entered into a conspiracy with the demons, and now he is waiting for the death penalty for this. The guy knows very well that this is a great sin, but does not think that he should say goodbye to life for this. One of Zadir reminded him that the task of catching these creatures is faced with them, and not letting him go so easily. The long-haired jumped from a huge cobblestone and laughed, because they could not cope with the assigned task, and not him. One of the men took out his weapons and was about to show this young man where crayfish winter, and it seems to him absolutely all the same. He calmly drinks his favorite wine and does not worry about anything. For him, these people are simply funny. When he opened his eyes, he saw them all over him. They are going to attack him. He only sighed in displeasure and made a couple of swings with his hand. Then he threw out his empty flask where there was wine. What a pity that his favorite drink was over. After that, he took the fried meat that he cooked himself and moved away from them, from the lying bodies, mimicking them. It was funny to him what these little people were funny, did not follow their tongue. Meanwhile, that strange bird was flying and flying. He was very angry that he could not eat this turtle. He almost broke into the new sphere of Ki, but this did not happen. In addition, this animal is its key to the new field. And Yan-er at that time sat on the cool stones near the shore of the river and urinated her legs, remembering the turtle. She really hopes that everything was in order with her. Suddenly, she hears the sound as if something had fallen into the water. Turning, she saw the largest shell that lay next to this animal. She began to fall suspicions that this was a new demon. And here, she hears in someone's female voice, it was the girl who attacked our hero in their world. She asked for forgiveness and thanked her and this turtle. The brunette said that she broke into a new sphere of Ki, and her physical body could have been in great danger if not for her. Yan smiled and jumped even on the spot. She was very glad that she could help her, and also offered her her friendship and introduced herself. Hearing this, her new girlfriend was upset, and missing her eyes, she said that she had no name, and she was not sure whether she would like to be with her because she was only in the second area when she was already in the fourth. But for the demon, these are mere trifles. The blonde promises that she will certainly become her best friend. Suddenly, she noticed how the turtle crawled to the shore again, and she cried out joyfully, poked her finger at her. She shared with her new acquaintance that this animal is in great danger. The blue-eyed nodded her head. She knows her very well. This is a demon that is just in the first sphere. A fair-haired baby grabbed that large shell and ran straight to her, and her new nameless friend pulled after her. Suddenly, the brunette stopped. She noticed that not only she was eager to approach her, but also some kind of bird. Like all the turtles, she moved slowly and could not even run away. And then this winged beast grabs her paws by the shell and carries high to the sky. The girls would have to hurry. He began to fly deeper and deeper into the forest. The demons ran straight behind him. And that blonde guy who has recovered with a group of unloved comrades, everything wandered around him. He is incredibly boring, and it seems that he was lost, and therefore, using his intuition, dropped his wand. She showed him a little to the right, and since it happened, then there is a way out. Meanwhile, the bird still rushed further into the forest, holding a turtle that tried to break free. The girls tried to keep up with her and prevent her from taking away even further. She seems to be close but was still very fast, like a demon. Soon, a feathered creature dropped her into his nest, which was located at the top of a tree. This happened by pure chance, and the bird had to activate its strength in order to grab it as soon as possible. The poor, low-level demon became scared, and he hid in his shell while this terrible creature was already approaching him. The girls already ran up to her and tried to stop with words. As soon as the bird heard them ask to release the turtle, he frowned even more and slowly looked at them. He rushed to them, and does not understand why they defend themselves for him, because he is not even a demon, and is not under the protection of their world. Suddenly, a little dark-haired girl spoke to him, and promised to leave their conversation between them about a secret pill. Of course, the bird has some suspicions, and he is not going to come closer. He drew attention to her fair-haired girlfriend, and praised her for achieving a perfect human form. Suddenly, the swordsman who wandered through the forest heard some strange sounds and began to listen. Then he just laughed, because he promised himself that he would not get lost here. Meanwhile, the bird was already beside itself. He promised that he would pay later, and show what would happen if he went against him. The blue-eyed shouted at him, because she did not expect such a reaction. Patted is sure that she will not be able to do anything to him, because she has a 3rd degree, and she cannot fly until she reaches the 4th. Now Yan does not understand exactly why he behaves like that, because when he becomes a demon, he no longer needs meat. In fact, this bird really wants to transform, free himself from the body of the beast, because this turtle destroys his life literally. However, since he wants to destroy the inner rod of others, then he fully deserves death. And here, the person who was lost interrupted their conversations. He wants to know the way. The man said that he does not want to be here, and that is why he asks where he needs to go. The girls prompted him the right path, and he thanked them. But it seems that this evil bird did not like their conversations. He still does not like to be distracted from him. They continued to ignore him, and this is already too much. He's going to capture this turtle again. Yan, with all his might, throws a stone at him in order to somehow stop it, because he does not have time to run up. She falls into his face, and also so that certain bird could not harm anyone, a man helps them to cause a cut to him. Baby is very glad that they managed to stop him, and with joy even jumped and patted her hands. The man took the exhausted turtle in his hands, and it was difficult not to notice how they were trying to save her. The blonde was amazed at how he managed to grab her, but he still has a heart and does not want to let him die. Her nameless friend looks at him and almost cries. The animal almost does not move and closed her eyes. A long-haired assistant can only assume that he was attacked from this bird. And although his shell was not completely punched, he received serious internal damage. He sighed heavily and dared to suggest that he had not been very long at such a pace. The brunette wants to sincerely help him using a healing spell. Yan is worried about the whole process, and it seems that it does not help at all. Her friend does not hold back and is already beginning to cry, believing that this is her fault. She is ready for everything to save this animal, when suddenly in her eyes there was a hope that she could still help her. This man interrupted their conversation. He caught this bird and brought it without signs of life. A girl who does not have a name, according to him, will be able to cope with this difficult situation. But so far, she herself does not understand how. The guy told them that such injuries are fatal for animals, but are insignificant for demons. From his words, we can conclude that if they turn him into a demon, then he will be in order. Yan's new friend thought about it and after a while asked her to teach this skill. The long-haired interrupted their conversation, saying that this is easy to do. You just need to let him eat a demonic essence. However, it will hurt. It will even kill her. And she can never again become this creature. And still, he does not understand why they should risk so for some kind of turtle. The swordsman, after he fried this bird, went to Yan and looked into her eyes. She looked a little scared and asked what he was doing. The guy only smiled. This is not his business, but he really wants to control it. Her friend was already crying. This is fate, and the truth is amazing for them. The blonde looks at her and cannot believe that for one day they only became friends and have already encountered this. The girl mentally asks Yan to provide her with a service after the turtle is saved. She does not want the guy to know that she had saved him giving his inner rod, and that is why she decides to establish in her brain that precisely saved him. And when he becomes strong enough, she must find him to marry her. And during this time, she hopes that he will hardly be cultivated in order to soon free herself from the fate of the demon. And besides, when this time comes, she can find an excuse to refuse the wedding. Baby Yan burst into tears. She does not understand why this is all this happening, why it should sacrifice herself for the sake of an ordinary animal. But here, the guy said that this is no unusual animal. The brunette decided to share that when he caught the fish, he watched how the turtle drives predators for the sake of muscles every day. And for this reason, one of them was able to become a demon, which is quite natural. But he helped her in this, and she repaid him. But Yan still does not understand how it can be natural. The man only laughed and joked that it was love. But he himself admitted that he also did not understand anything, and asked him to find another glass of wine. And at this beautiful moment, the journey into the past was completed. Our hero leaned over his wife and whispered in her ear that if everything shown in the water mirror was true, then she really misunderstood her, and also glorified her for being able to miss such an important detail. The blonde only sighed heavily. She said that she really did not remember anything from this. And here, again, she had to lean on his shoulder when she tries to remember this. Her head begins to hurt a lot. But since our hero himself does not understand why this is happening, he will not be able to help her, and therefore offers to simply take and forget about it all. The guy supported her by the shoulders and politely said goodbye to that girl. Suddenly, he hit something very firm, and it seems that he was very painful. Sean began to worry about how his wife was there, but suddenly he saw a strange man who managed to catch her and acquired her waist. This mysterious stranger took her hands and put her on her feet, and she only looked at him in surprise. The blonde waved her hand and looked at her with a smile. Because today so many things happened to her, she would have to rest. And Yan herself stands and looks at the large moon. And it is very similar that she was sad, he really returned. And now she does not know what to do. In front of her is the same man from the past, the swordsman with which she should marry. Only from the thoughts of this, she somehow felt uneasy. And he only looked at her with a slight excitement on her heart. Our hero is also standing and does not understand anything. He requires an explanation what kind of stuffed animal was drawn against their background. The man came closer to him and introduced himself, which was the third principal of the Dragon Palace, and his name is Manhwa. He is completely calm in appearance, and it seems not even aggressively tuned to her groom. It can be called A.O. How, and our hero almost laughed because it reminded him of some dog. The man politely turned to his beloved and asked for forgiveness for being late, asking to leave everything else on him. And now, he confidently stated, pacing here that any insult to Liu family, equivalent to his personally insulting him, and promises the offender to pay for everything. The blonde strives forward, but our hero stops him, and he is going to destroy the monster who dared to harm her. Shang previously thought that he was simply an idiot, but did not expect that he had the features of cruelty. He decided that he needed to tell him that he pacified this creature with Yan, and now he came after it ended and decided to deal with him from something. And since she went to that, the man gave permission to his beloved to decide what to do with them. She also handed over permission to her third brother to deal with this all. This old man is a demon and mocks a mere mortal. Maybe of course he is not clear to him and it is unknown. He absolutely does not care, but he does not understand that even if they offended the Liu family with something, then what is their fault? After all, because Yan Er does not remember the past at all and also experiences difficulties when he tries to remember. Her old friend said that it took hundreds of years to grow the essence of meads, and due to serious injuries, the turtle returned to the initial form. Our hero approached his wife and asked what she was going to do further with all this. He provided her with two options. If she wants, he can leave this business to the third brother and let him start with him. Well, or just let them go. After which Shan went away. Now she has a lot of emotions and thoughts in her head. She does not remember anything from this at all. Does not even know if she is telling her the truth now. In addition, it seems that womanizer began to lose his temper. A simple mortal does not have the right to participate in the affairs of demons. The boy does not perceive his lounges seriously, and as if specially teasing him, the man is going to attack him so that he feels the taste of defeat. Our hero became in the rack, trying to somehow defend himself. Well, just in time, Yan's younger sister ran up to them and said that she had a message from her grandfather. The third old man told them to let them go, and here they stopped. The blonde only rolled his eyes with displeasure, because he was ready to take his head off the shoulders of this scoundrel. Our hero is very glad that reasonable people who can think rationally remained in this family. As the third son of a family of A.O., the man bowed and promised to obey the will. Yan turned to her old friend and reminded that according to the decree she could go away, and as for the past, she really does not remember this. In addition, if this turns out to be true, she promises to come to her to apologize. But she does not see the point. The only thing that the blonde was able to give her in the end, this is a pill, after the reception of which you can regain a human form. And yet, the Nameless turned to our hero and said that the Liu family is very dangerous. In parting, she asked Shan to be extremely careful here, Then she was able to apply Manu and took off up. The guy just looked at her in the wake. After all that had happened, he sat next to his friend's friend and sighed heavily. The day was difficult. He also saw that Yan and her mother at the same time began to move away from him. The guy wanted to go with them, but the dog stopped and said that the hostess said that the villa was destroyed, and therefore Shan would have to stay with him. Silence and calm finally reigned on the street, which even became terribly from him. Our hero still could not stop his thoughts. He is very angry that they have no rooms for him for an overnight stay. That blonde will sleep in a cozy bed while he was in a dog booth. The dog laughed and said that all due to the fact that the mistress and Ao Hao have known each other for a long time, and they almost got married several decades ago. It was this moment that the guy interested, and he asked what was later. Suddenly, some light distracted from an important conversation. Next to them stood a man who shone with a spotlight literally in his face, and Shan shouted at him for it. The dog began to read the book, and said that according to it, the man moved away from the hostess and returned to Nanhai to practice in order to become immortal. Even more questions arose in the head of our hero. What kind of book it was and why he returned? And even more, he was taken away by the man who did not stop shining in his face. The tale told him that this is the last release of the novel By a Kiss of a Snake and a Dragon, which was written by a popular writer of the world of demons of that time. And besides this, according to him, at that time, Yan was abandoned to the mercy of fate. Meanwhile, that mustachioed picked up a girl with a huge fan and they rushed somewhere far away. And so, soon they arrived at the place and were able to gently land. The boss of the curator, who stood nearby, was already waiting for them. When she saw him, the girl immediately found out that he was from the depression department, and also recalled that the arrest of the demon for no significant reason was a violation of the agreement between people and demons, to which the brunette only just smiled. And that is why he said that here, in order to heal them, because he did not want something to go according to plan. And since the Master Feng is afraid of problems, his assistant girl promised to take there too. Her boss was a little angry. It seems to him that she underestimates his ability to work. And since it went to that, the blonde suggests checking his performance for strength. Meanwhile, the next morning, our hero, as always, set the table and listened to the news. The program told a large fire and earthquake in neighboring cities. It was very strange to him that he did not feel it at all. And all the girls from the Liu family were already entering the kitchen, and they began to consider everything around. The guy came closer to them and turned. Since yesterday everyone worked so much, he decided to cook a hearty breakfast for everyone. In addition, that annoying AO appeared, who apologized for making them wait so long. And as it turned out, he also prepared food in the morning, and therefore lingered. Our hero was slightly upset that being a prince dragon who controls the ocean, he ultimately abuses his power and eats seafood every day. The man turned to Yan and said that his soldiers and generals renovated the villa overnight, otherwise they would not have had breakfast at least. Our hero tried his food, and the first thing that came across was the hinkali that he immediately spat out. It seems that after them he will have a stomach disorder. The girl's mother took a huge shrimp. Her taste was ordinary, albeit not like all previous breakfasts. The blonde sat closer to Yan and offered her something tasty that he cooked specifically for her. However, the girl today, for some reason without a mood and therefore refused such a proposal. The youngest intervened in their conversation. She also has such an unusual dish. She prefers kinkali according to a special recipe, but Yan sighed heavily. She has enough bowls with porridge, and here, the man unexpectedly for our hero turned to him and offered to try his cooking, which is prepared according to a special family recipe. Although he was pleased for the attention paid to him, but he got up and stepped away, saying that he had already eaten. The blonde looked at him and only nodded his head, but in fact, Shan is now very angry with himself, because he really wanted to try a large lobster. And when she became more calm here, the man turned to his beloved, saying that he had returned because he won his inner demons. Hearing about this, her mother was confused and even broke the wands for land. The youngest noticed this and asked her whether everything is fine. But it seems that yesterday I make myself felt. Blue-eyed too did not quite understand what he meant and was a little confused like her mother. The blonde knelt before her and confidently stated that he decided to abandon the cultivation of immortality. But now she could accept him again. The girl stood and did not say anything. She was slightly in a confused state. Meanwhile, our hero heard all this and was very angry. The creak of teeth grew into loud screams. A small mouse along with the dog tried to keep him so that he would not do stupid things. The youngest, along with their mother, only looked at Yan and waited for her to say. However, she cannot give him an answer, And all, of course, because of a simple mortal. The blonde nodded her head. The guesses of Ao are true. But this is not only because of him, because he is wretched. The man sighed heavily. Be that as it may, he respects her decision. However, if she changes his mind, he promised that he would always wait for her. Our hero managed to get out into the street to the dog booth, but he did not stop raging. And that he was an ordinary mortal. He still considers himself better than that demon. The mouse was also nearby, and he said that the Prince of Dragons looks like the protagonist of a book in love with the heroine. Previously, he said, he was very cruel, but now he has changed completely and returned back. The tail wove him a small hat from the leaves, and deftly jumping on his shoulder, put on his head. He also believes that the guy has a risk of losing her husband's status. But on the other hand, he is reassured by the fact that maybe Yan Er is not at all like that, because she refused it. However, the mouse can call this simple shyness. But if it is not between them now, then their reunion will be by itself. Our hero carefully removed the product from his head and asked if it was possible to defeat the main character from that book. But the dog, in his words, does not see any sense, and the mouse considers differently. In many books, the antagonist torments the protagonist for a long time, and only in the end, in some cunning way, he manages to win. And after these words, the guy seemed to understand everything and joyfully jumped. He believes that if that main character, he can be called the main villain. The guys only looked at him and did not look away. Sheng promised to become a bloodthirsty final boss for him. Meanwhile, a loud laughter was heard in the room of the head of the curator. Blind was reported to the information that the Master Simon Akama hides, and he could not restrain himself. And Ao also had his own office in which he could feel in full health and calm. His subordinate soon came to him, and the first thing he bowed to the master. He knows how strict he can be, and therefore tried to adhere to etiquette. On a small table, which stood near the AO, there was a bowl in which there was a mixture similar to a snake. When he stopped looking at her, he only now drew attention to his colleague. The blonde threatened him that if because of him the old family of Liu finds about his plan, then after that he would suit him a real hell. Of course, that man previously promised him to restrain his word, and therefore simply fell to his knees. The long-haired turned away from him, and only now he gave the right to speak. The brunette told him that his army was located around the city of Binhai. However, the strangest thing is that there was no action on the part of the demon suppression department. The blue-eyed looked back and only smiled, without saying anything. He remembers that the general of the city of Binhai is only at the 5th level, and therefore there is no worry about. These are the Lord of the 6 Banners of the South Dao, and his name is Feng Di. This person is a real problem for him. Meanwhile, the boss of the curator of our hero is still laughing with Lord Simon. Only now he is interested in, it's all for the sake of the eternal world between the demonic world and human, or it is just selfishness. And if Shan agreed to cooperation, then he would have easily received a promotion. The only thought of money causes a wide smile on his face, and our hero, meanwhile, began to climb the roofs in the middle of the white day. He looked around, since the last time everything was fine. Then, this time it should be the same. This time, the guy is quite confident in himself and is ready for the new. He makes a sharp run and proudly performs his fateful jump. Suddenly, someone abruptly enough by the scruff, and this is his curator. Just in time, the old man managed to catch him and drag him back to the roof. The brown-eyed leaned over him and said that he had important information that he wants to convey. But even if so, then for this it is not necessary to jump from the roof. Of course, our hero does not like it when he was taught, and he asked not to talk to him anymore. The curator grabbed his hand and took him away to a more secluded place. After a couple of minutes of their conversation, he was already free and could walk. He wondered where this uncle came from at that moment. Suddenly, from all these thoughts, he was distracted by the girls who almost climbed into each other. Our hero does not quite understand what is happening. Is there really some kind of celebrity somewhere nearby? And however, the girls squeaked and gasped with delight when they looked at one person. Of course, there were such, especially the guys who openly despised and called him. Sean stopped one of them and asked why everyone was going here. The guy hit his fist against the wall with anger and said that there was nothing special here. The new one who loves to show off was just transferred to them. Our hero was delighted with what incredible skills this person had. The guy left him and, gritting his teeth, wants to teach him a lesson. It can be seen that he was angry, so much so that he struck a crack in the building. The classmate began to break through the crowd of girls, pushing everyone around. He went back to the new one and was going to smile well so that he vinyl his popularity for everything that had happened. However, here it turned out a little the opposite. He got in the face and even took off high up. Our hero immediately understood who he was dealing with. This is that AO, so his wife came here. His accompanying people asked them to open the way and not interfere. The girls admired his beauty. This demon is really incredibly beautiful. Each wants to get his attention. And then the blue-eyed asked Yan why they came to the place where ordinary mortals study. The girl reminded him that he had been a comma for a long time, and that is why he needed to integrate into society. And the school is just ideal for this. He liked everything. But besides the fact that it was human, not demonic, the blonde noticed that something was wrong here. But he dumped this and said that he was simply regretting that he had spent a lot of time without her, and now did not have time to trace his thoughts. The guys looked into each other's eyes and only smiled. For the first time, Yan was so able to sincerely pull on a smile to someone, thereby reassured him. Only by clicking his finger, the man created an incredibly luxurious umbrella and said that the truth wants to only go to this school with her. Suddenly, our hero stopped them at the entrance and asked what they forgot here, because this place where they came to study. And besides, he saw strangers. This is their guards. But still, Sean reminded them that they were prohibited further than them. His wife was about to approach him to talk. She called him not by his name, and then our hero asked her not to approach him. But after all, if he is not eggs, then who? The man has no idea. Our hero only laughed loudly. He was very amused by this question. And now, it seems time to show him his real person. When the guy opened his jacket, what was there was blinded by many. All the guys closed their eyes and tried to at least make out something, but it is pointless. Bajik hung on it the president of the Student Council, and it seems that our hero is incredibly proud of this. Now they know everything about him. His wife laughed softly. It all looks pretty boring. In addition, the guy began to command and demanded the newcomers to follow him to talk about the problems of environmental pollution. Ao immediately refused to follow him. He did not want to play with him these games because he did not throw anything away and did not harm nature. Surprisingly, Sean knew very well and predicted what he could say and therefore prepared, asking him to look at his hand. There was a photograph on the phone where the student who's beaten crashed into a flower bed. This is a very good argument, but still the demon is not going to play the game with him. And then the guy took out his trump card and said that he was invited by the department to suppress demons. But for some reason they had absolutely spit on it all. The blonde approached him and asked if he really began to cooperate with them. The groom only smiled and was not going to hide the truth. Of course, it is obvious that since he is a person, he will be on the side of people. The demons only reviewed each other and then looked again at the guy. The other guys who were present here also began to look around and whisper with Yan and Ao. However, since he doesn't want to go with him, then our hero has no idea what other methods people will use from the suppression department to invite him. The blue-eyed listened to all this, and somehow it became a little unpleasant on her soul. She shouted about her husband in the back, that she made a mistake in him. However, to her, unfortunately, Sheen stopped listening to her and simply turned away. And then Io shouted after him. This girl refused him because of him, but he disappointed her so much. This is also our hero believes that they should not worry that she is disappointed or not. The girl grabbed her head, and her old friend simply acquired her and tried to cheer her up. And finally, she saw the essence of this man. And to make it easier for her, the man decided to thank her right here and now. Our hero stood all his back to them and smiled. He certainly will not allow this demon to die just like that. In the same prison, his old friend, with whom he had to cross, continued to draw something on the wall and remember the eggs. He was eaten by all one thought that he should tell him what would happen if he would underestimate Nude Barui.